While Zack Wheeler continues to produce as one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, the end of the road seems to be coming for the Phillies A's a bit sooner than many have expected. Wheeler recently opened up in an interview with Matt Gelb of The Athletic, speaking about his future plans, the certainty of his retirement, and why he plans on spending just 2 more seasons at the Major League level. I want to talk about how this impacts the Phillies, why they had to be ahead of this and prepared for this, as well as share a couple other cool stories from the article that I think showed how Zack Wheeler ticks in a pretty unique way. We know that pitchers are characters. We know that there is always these unique rituals and guys just seeing the world a little bit different. And I was unaware of how much of a character that Zack Wheeler in particular is. Going to dive into all of this into this video here. But before I do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. At this point in time, 73% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet. You can check out my content on Sixers Digest as well. But here at Phillies Digest, we're going to be all over things from start to finish this season. There's a ton more excitement building, and the Phillies team showing a little bit of momentum once again. Now, to get into the topic of today, the headline that has been making its rounds all over the place is that Phillies ace Zack Wheeler plans to retire once his contract expires at the end of the 2027 per Matt Gelb. Now, this is not breaking news here, as Wheeler has essentially said this since he signed the contract, that he expected that this would be his last deal here, and this is not a case in which the guy is hanging it up because he can't play anymore. I mean, Wheeler is still performing at a very high level, and to acknowledge the stat on this season, we're talking about through 14 games, a 778 winning percentage, has pitched 88 innings, allowed 10 home runs, struck out 110, only 59 hits per allowed, 6.0 hits per 9 innings, a 2.76 ERA, and a .886 whip there. The home runs are a bit higher than normal for him, but he's certainly settled in. Had a bit of a tough start to the season for that, but you take a 2.76 ERA and the way that he gives this team a chance to win on an every night basis, 10 times out of 10 here. Now, with Wheeler in particular, the reason that I bring this to the conversation in regards to the Phillies now is it is time to begin planning a little bit. The fact that he is being this open is a good thing from an organizational standpoint, that you're not going to get blindsided by what the case and him walking away at an unexpected time. But you take a peek at sort of the multi-year cap outlook for this Phillies team, there is some work to be done. Now, Zack Wheeler, you can see those 2 more years under contract in the 2026 and 2027 season. Aaron Nola was signed to a long-term contract this past offseason, and that's going to be an interesting conversation to get into. Obviously, he's battling injury right now, the stress fracture that he does have in the rib, and we will see ultimately what the outcome of is for that. I think, to be honest, for Nola specifically, it's probably a good thing for him to just get away, get his mind right a little bit right now. It's pretty common, or pretty clear, I think, to everyone that he did not look like the best version of himself to start to the season, but with all due respect and credit and fairness to him here, he obviously was battling some injury stuff. So there is a world in which he gets right back on track when he does return to the field. And we obviously hope that is the case there. Jesus Luzardo was a dude that they traded for before the season. And while he had those back-to-back rocky starts, he looked excellent in the larger sample size of the season, and is a guy that I believe after his arbitration will ultimately end up on a long-term contract here in Philadelphia. Christopher Sanchez is a player that the Phillies have committed to for the next 3 seasons beyond just this year at a very reasonable contract that I might add. So those kind of 3 guys are stapled in here. Then, of course, we get into a little bit more of the difficult conversations. Ranger Suarez, it's going to break my heart, but I kind of expect him to walk this offseason. I've been pretty open about that on the channel for quite some time. He is my personal favorite pitcher on this pitching staff. I know he's not the best, but he, comparatively to guys like Wheeler and Nola, and you can go down the list here, but there is just a calming influence when Ranger Suarez has the ball that I quite appreciate. I think he's going to get paid this offseason. I don't think it's going to be in Philadelphia, but we'll be wishing him the luck, and would love to be wrong about that I would love the Phillies to dig deep, pony up the money, and find a way to retain him. Then, of course, there's the Andrew Painter conversation, and this does seem to be the wild card in this entire conversation, as in an ideal world, that is the Phillies' next Zack Wheeler there. And to check back in on Painter, I know I dropped a video a couple days ago highlighting that he's having some struggles at the minor league level. He did bounce back with a pretty strong performance most recently. Went 5 innings, allowed just 1 hit, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts there. The stuff looked to be back. It's really seemed to be the issue being not getting enough movement on his fastball is really why he's getting hit around. It does, like, in fairness to him as well, he went 2 full seasons without throwing live pitching at actual hitters here. It's not the easiest thing to just step back in and be the best version of yourself when that is the case. He's going to settle in. He's going to be fine, even if the timeline might not be as accelerated as you or I may hope. Now, to bring this conversation back to Zack Wheeler, I did want to highlight a couple stories from this article from Matt Gelb of The Athletic here. So, for starters, we obviously got the news about the retirement here, but he was asked a little bit about keeping his body healthy. And the article writes, Wheeler, a balding dad who cherishes his baggy shorts, is none of that. As he's aged, he has all but eliminated in-season workouts. He celebrated 10 years in the majors with post-game McDonald's for everyone. Quote, he eats like an absolute child, Realmuto said. Wheeler does not obsess over video or advanced metrics. Other people do that for him. Once inside Wheeler's circle, the trust is absolute. And there was also a funny story told by Orion Kirkring, who mentioned they never see Zack Wheeler in the weight room, ever. He just doesn't quite exist there. But the one time he walked in and there was a Diet Coke that he was sipping while working out there. And obviously JT told a story as well talking about that. Yeah, I've seen him in there a couple times, never breaking a sweat, never doing anything. But, I've seen him in the weight room. So pretty funny that for the guys that I think we tend to picture as these psycho athletes, psycho competitors, maybe take their foot off the gas a little bit more. They also mentioned that in the offseason, you're basically not getting in touch with Zack Wheeler, that he does not respond to texts from coaches, from teammates, that he's not going to those golf outings, not going to the team dinners. He's in family time at this point, and that is really what's motivating this upcoming retirement. And another hilarious story that was added in this article here was about Randy Arozarena, and it tells the story that it was 2021. The Phillies went to Tropicana Field in late May, not 8 months removed from Randy Arozarena's 10-homer postseason that powered the Tampa Bay Rays to the American League pennant. Arozarena was leading off against the Phillies, so that is how the meeting began. Wheeler, per usual, was on the training table while everyone else spoke. Quote, all right, Arozarena, how do we want to do this? Caleb Cotham said. This is how we want to attack him. Pause. Is he right-handed or left-handed? Wheeler asked. Dude, what? JT Realmuto said. Wheeler struck out Arozarena all 3 times on 3 different pitches that day. Very funny for a dude to just not be that in touch with other baseball players who are obviously having some huge success. And the bottom line is the results do speak for themselves. As much as I think some people would criticize this, Zack Wheeler is a perennial Cy Young candidate. It's going to be unfortunate that I think his career will probably go without him actually winning one, even though he's been in the mix so often. He's a guy that will be an all-time great signing from a Phillies perspective. The fact that they downright signed him as a free agent from the Mets, who decided he was not worth that, is absolute insanity to this day, and New York should continue to regret that here. But happy that he is in Philadelphia, and I think it's even cooler that we're getting a bit of a window into the personality here. Wheeler's a guy that has just been, taking care of business on the field, and then we don't hear from him much off the field. That's pretty much what this story revealed, and we're starting to get a little bit of the behind the scenes there. So while it is a bit upsetting that there is only 2 more seasons that we will see with Wheeler, we should cherish him for these, and ultimately give him a ton of credit for a guy that I think is largely underrated in the conversations for where he falls around the conversation in best pitchers in baseball. You get him any given night, and he could be at the top of the list. He's that good. The stuff is that real with Zack Wheeler, and we should enjoy what we have for these final 2 seasons. So shout out to Matt Gelb for capturing some of the inside scoop on that article there. Shout out to Zack Wheeler for making a hell of a baseball career, and we still got 2 more seasons. We can accomplish a lot in this. So for this Phillies team, as we start to see this era beginning to unwind, we're seeing the cracks in the foundation. As each of these players get a little older, it is time to lock in and make sure we're taking care of business, because we do not know how many more years we have with each of these guys. Of course, Wheeler making his intentions clear, but who knows where Bryce Harper's head's at? Who knows how long Kyle Schwarber wants to play? Each of these guys have a certain deadline that they're kind of working with and battling a ton of stuff. So shout out to Zack Wheeler, man, a guy that once again I do feel is very underappreciated in the conversation of how talented he really is. Shout out to Matt Gelb for capturing that article there, and shout out to you guys for tuning into this video. So as always, appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you have not already, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. 73% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet, so let's get this Phillies Digest family growing. We're in the full steam ahead of the season. All-Star break already approaching at a pretty rapid rate. We are cruising through, so make sure you guys are tapping in. We're going to be on top of things from start to finish this year, and want as many of you a part of the Phillies Digest family. So make sure you're dropping a like on this video, hitting the subscribe button, and I'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.